Welcome to Modern Gundog Training. Throughout this series of programs, we're going to be exploring the training that goes into these little people, the Labrador Retriever. They are determined, they're loyal, they're very hard-working, and with the right training they make fantastic friends and assets to us in the shooting field, as well as great family companions. We're going to start off with little people like this one, work right through the stages and ages, and end up with adults like her father, who will be shooting over in various different situations on the battlefield or the shooting field. We're going to be visiting various shooting estates across Scotland, but we'll also do lots of our training on public access ground, which serves to prove that anybody with the time and inclination can find somewhere suitable to train their dog. I'm Joe Hipwell from Modern Gundogs at Riddle Estate in the Scottish Borders. I've trained dogs for a long time now, full time, and I learnt how to do this from my grandpa, Edward Martin. We compete with our dogs and we demonstrate them across the UK, but what I get the most enjoyment from, and I find the most satisfying, is helping people to get the best out of their dog. And I hope that together, through this series of programs, we'll be able to achieve that. Okay, we've got some Labrador puppies on the go at the minute. They're 4 weeks old and we're training them already. Obviously nothing too advanced, but what we're teaching them, even from the word go here, is recall. We've got 2 bowls of nice hot puppy food for them, and at 4 weeks they're kind of in that in-between stage between a bit of puppy food, a bit of time still with their mother and that sort of thing. But to get them recalling at this stage, they've got a little paddock here which I call them out into to feed them. I'm going to try to get them out a little bit further out onto the grass here as it's such a nice day, and you'll hear how I do it. It's by a lot of expressive calling, like whistling, loud noises, that sort of thing. And if you do that every time you put food down, even with tiny little puppies, they very quickly get to know that that sound means something good and they go towards it. And from there, you just change it to their name and use the whistle and that sort of thing. And before you know it, they're recalling quite nicely. Let's have a go and see if we can get them out here. Come on then, come on, come on. Now there's 7, we need to get 7 out here. Here's 3. Come on then, pups, come on then. Come on, pup, 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 pup. Come on guys, come on. Come on then, come on then. Come on, pup, 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 pup. It's just the same as any training with an older one. We're trying to teach them to come back to a nice, encouraging noise like that. And as soon as they do it, they get a reward like this straight away. So just through a nice, positive thing like that, the pups already like hearing your voice. They associate me being here while they're eating and that sort of thing. And it's a good time to handle them and stroke them and move them about and all that sort of thing. And they just get used to coming back to you and it just being a lot of fun, really. When you're choosing your puppy and you've made that big decision to get one, it's worth thinking about what time of year you get your pup. Nice weather like this, it's April now, a nice April day for Scotland, is great for pups because it's nice and dry, hopefully, and sunny. And the big thing is the mornings and evenings when you get light. So for the spring and summer, it's a great time because you can get your puppy out socialising them in the evenings. You can start doing a bit of training. For house training and getting them clean, better weather's always easier because you can run them out more quickly and easily onto a bit of grass, that sort of thing. There's lots of advantages to having a young puppy when the weather's good in the spring or summer. You can do it in the winter just fine. It's just a little bit more difficult and there's a little bit more work. The big thing actually is the light, because if it's light in the evenings, you can come home from work or finish what you're doing and spend some time with pups like this with the when it's nice and light in the evenings. We can do it in the summer. We've got a big light outside the kennels which we can put on, and you can spend time with dogs and young pups in the evenings there under the light. But it's never quite as good, and you're never more as inclined to spend as much time with pups if the weather isn't quite as good. But you can do it. There's just different things to think about if you're having a puppy in the winter. But conversely, if you have your young puppy through the spring and summer, then when they're kind of 6 months old or onwards, and it's time to train them, then you're into the winter. So you haven't got the time in the light in the evenings to do that. Whereas if you have your winter puppy, if you get over your difficulties of having the puppy in the winter and the rain and dealing with the weather and things, when they're 6 months old, hopefully then it'll be spring and summer and you'll be able to start training them and get them out in the evenings, and it can really bring them on. So there's actually advantages to having them at different times of year. I'd always choose to have little puppies in the spring or summer, get them house trained, get them clean, get them socialised with nice weather, and then I can kind of cope with the when I'm actually training. I can cope with that during the winter, but my job is obviously training dogs. So during the day, during the winter time, I can spend time with them. But if you bear in mind that if you're going to work mostly during the day or you're just working with weekends, it can be quite handy to have that light in the evenings at the time when you need it. Another thing to consider when choosing your puppy is only choosing a puppy. I've heard lots of stories about people going to a breeder and getting tempted into taking 2 pups home. And you know, everyone will have been in the position where you see a litter of pups, they all look fantastically cute, and then a breeder kind of mentions that actually there's 2 available here, and you can go home having only intended to have 1, go home with 2. Well, we'd advise against it. We always suggest to people only to have 1 puppy, because if you have 2 puppies, Grandpa always says it doesn't double the amount of work, it triples it or more. They just get latched onto each other. They're very focused on each other because they spend, particularly if they're from the same litter, spend a lot of time together, and they really get a bond with each other rather than with you. Sometimes we have to keep 2 or more pups on from the same litter because we're training them for clients or for various reasons. But as soon as I can, they're separated and into different kennels, and all of their training is done individually away from their sibling. They spend time with them, obviously like they do with the other dogs, but all their training and most of their time is separate to them. And then hopefully they get the bond with me rather than with each other. Because I have seen dogs, people have come with 2 dogs at about 12 months old, and you can see straight away, if they've never been apart from each other, they're very focused and latched onto each other, and they can be sort of needy when you take the other one away and do bits and bobs with them. And the only really way to cure that is separating them, spending time with them as individuals, getting that bond human and dog rather than the 2 dogs together. But it's a lot more tricky with 2. I mean, if you want to, and you've got designs to eventually work 2 or more dogs, then the best way to do it is have 1 pup, start their training, and then at about 10 or 12 months old, when you're kind of getting on well with them and they're started off, then get a puppy. We've brought Crisp down to the local park to do a little bit of basic lead work and sitting and steadiness with him. Just for the reason to come somewhere different, a few different smells, little interesting place for him, because they can easily get into their own comfort zone at home and behave immaculately there, but not everywhere else. So this is just a little test for him under different conditions. Heel. We've got the slip lead nice and loose. Down, my arms nice and loose down by my side. Crisp, good boy. We're keeping him on our left hand side, and you see my arms loose there. I'm not holding the lead like that. It's not tight. My arms nice and low down, like that. Good boy. Heel. And we say heel to him. Good boy. Good boy. And if he were to pull or go where he's not supposed to, don't panic about it. Just give him a little correction like that. Good boy. Heel. And pull him back where he's supposed to be with his head next to our knee like that. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Crisp. Good boy. Sit. Good boy. And just encouraging him to sit every time we stop. Good boy. Good lad. This wants to all be done in a nice, calm, gentle way, because if you're calm and gentle, that'll transfer onto him. Whereas if we're getting excited and jolting about and pulling him and that sort of thing, it just feeds his excitement. Stay nice and calm and relaxed, and if he misbehaves and does what he's not supposed to, we just use the lead to correct him, pull him back where he's supposed to be, and remind him to heel. Now you see the little exercises I'm doing. I'm not going very far, just a few paces up and down, which is the best way to teach him to walk to heel. If we were to march off for a mile-long walk, everything's really interesting, it's really exciting, we're walking at a pace, and the last thing we're thinking about is getting him to do it nicely. Heel. If we just walk in a little circle like this, just while we're teaching a young dog to walk, Crisp, good boy, to walk nicely on the lead, good boy. We're really concentrating on what we're doing, good boy, heel, good boy, Crisp, Crisp, good boy. And our main focus is getting him to behave nicely on the end of this lead.